Hey Queens, it's your girl Tiana Elise, and welcome to the Holy It Girl podcast where I help you integrate biblical principles into your daily lives, such as your relationships, business, career, etc. So today we are going to be talking about how to stop being insecure. And no, I'm not going to give you the typical church saying of, girl, just pray on it. I mean, yeah, we're going to pray on it too, but I'm going to give you actual practical steps to help you become secure in Christ. I really want to focus on getting to the deeper truth and the deeper heart of the matter of what's going on while you're insecure and what's going on internally in your heart posture. I just feel like this was a great topic because we live in a social media times where it's easy to see people who are 20 years old living wealthy lives. You're looking at the beauty standards that social media is creating, and it can make you feel inadequate, right? I want to help you begin the process of healing and rewiring the way that you are looking at yourself and rewiring the way that you are thinking. Okay, let's get into it. For this segment, I want to take a closer look at Saul because I feel like he is the perfect person to kind of analyze when it comes to jealousy, insecurity, and things like that. For those that don't know who Saul was the first king of Israel, right? But one thing about Saul is before David actually ended up becoming king after him, he was a king who was really jealous of David. He was a king that tried to kill David out of jealousy. Once he started seeing that David was succeeding, he had this agenda just to kill him, and he allowed his jealousy, he allowed his insecurity to take over. But today we are going to take a closer look at that moment before he was anointed king, or at that moment when he was anointed king. Because if we pay attention to the beginning of Saul's reign, like before David even came into the picture, there was already insecurity that stemmed there. And once we begin to dissect this, I think it will open your eyes to where insecurity stems from and kind of how to overcome it. So if we go to 1 Samuel chapter 9, it says, there was a wealthy, influential man named Kish from the tribe of Benjamin. And then if we go to verse 2, it says, his son Saul was the most handsome man in Israel, head and shoulders taller than anyone else in the land. So when we pay attention to how Saul is introduced to us as a character within the Bible, he is introduced with his father being someone who is wealthy and influential. And then he is also described as one of the most handsome men in Israel. But now when we take a closer look at 1 Samuel chapter 9 verses 19 through 21, this is a moment where Samuel is about to honor Saul and basically let him know that God is anointing him as the new king of Israel. He doesn't know this is going to happen yet, right? But let's take a closer look at what he says in this moment. I am a seer, Samuel replied. Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning I tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. And don't worry about those donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, for they have been found. I am here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of all Israel's hopes. Saul replied, but I'm only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel, and my family is the least important of all the families of that tribe. Why are you talking to me like this? And actually, let's keep going. Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them at the head of the table, honoring them above the 30 special guests. Samuel then instructed the cook to bring Saul the finest cut of meat, the piece that had been set aside for the guest of honor. So the cook brought in the meat and placed it before Saul. Go ahead and eat it, Samuel said. I was saving it for you even before I invited these others. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. So when we look at the beginning of this chapter, he is described, his family, his father is described as someone who is influential and wealthy. And he is described as someone who is handsome. But when placed in a seat of honor, Saul describes himself as someone who is the least. His tribe is the least. His family is the least, as if they're insignificant, which tells me there was a distorted perception and perspective of his own worth, of his own self-worth, and how he viewed himself. And it wasn't based in reality. It wasn't based in truth. It was completely rooted in lies. His insecurity pops up right here. And what I've come to notice, and this is just something that's common in everyday life, some of the most talented, wisest, or even most beautiful people cannot see their greatness. It's usually the ones it's usually the ones who truly are talented that cannot see how great they are. It's usually the ones that are very beautiful, the women that are so beautiful, the women that are pretty, that fail to realize how beautiful that they are and have a lot of insecurity. And a lot of this could possibly stem from them being hypercritical of themselves. But Saul did not see his greatness because to everyone else, his father and his family was influential and wealthy. Why did he not see it? So this brings me to my first step in healing your insecurity. You first have to identify the self-limiting beliefs and things and negative things that you have been telling yourselves, whether that's I'm not pretty enough, or whether when you see another pretty girl walk into the room, are you comparing yourself to her, feeling like you aren't as good? Or when it comes to a job, you automatically telling yourself that you can't do it or you're not qualified, or telling yourself all the reasons why you are not qualified for that position. You cannot heal this insecurity if you have not been able to sit with yourself and admit to yourself that these are the feelings that you feel and bringing them to God, right? And you don't have to tell everyone else, but you can tell God, because what God will do is when you bring to him the ugly truth, which he is going to reveal anyway if you stay in connection and relationship with him. As you bring him the ugly truth of how you're feeling internally, he then presents you with his truth, because the way that you're seeing yourself is distorted. You are not seeing yourself through a God's lens. What are the lies that the enemy wants you to believe? And what is God's truth to the lies that you are telling yourself? First step, identify the self-limiting beliefs that you are constantly telling yourself, and then replace them with spiritual truths of what God says about you. Because God was putting Saul in position. God was saying that he is capable of being the king, that he could lead the people into success and victory when it comes to military battle and strategy. But all he saw himself was as lesser than. And we have to question the things that we tell ourselves. We have to start questioning the thoughts of doubt, because in our mind we truly believe it's truth, but it's not. And the thing about having a negative perception is that you have trained your mind to see the negative. You have trained your mind to confirm what you already believe about yourself. And this is actually called confirmation bias. It's where you have something you believe about yourself. So now you look for things to confirm that negative idea you have. Let me give an example. If you already feel like you are unlovable, let's use a relationship. If you already feel like you are unlovable, and you already feel like you are not that beautiful, and you have all this insecurity, and you feel like, a man could leave at any point because of how you perceive yourself. Now when that man does anything, whether it's maybe he didn't respond in an hour time frame, or maybe he's been working hard all day and it took him a little bit longer than usual to get back to you within a day's time frame. I'm not saying like he went a whole month and didn't talk to you, sis. Let's use our discernment. But if it was like a couple hours more than usual, and then he comes back like, hey, sorry, today was like a really busy day, blase blase, your insecurity and the story you told yourself in your mind is that someone is going to leave you because you're not good enough. So now that situation, you'll take that situation and look at it as if, you know what, he probably just isn't feeling me anymore. You know what, he just probably is done with me. Maybe it's something I did, maybe it's something I said, maybe whatever the case may be. And so now your insecurity starts to cause you to confirm the negative perception you already have about yourself. It's the confirmation bias, when in reality that's not truth. But now you're looking for things to confirm the negative perception and negative reality that you've created for yourself. Another one is if you've told yourself that you're unlikable and that you're not that great at making friends. When you go into social settings, you will now create that narrative. You will create a narrative of awkwardness. Someone who does a gesture that may be a little bit off, you'll automatically take it personal as an attack to you, because you have this negative perception. You're looking for things to confirm the negative perception of yourself that you've already created in your mind, even if it's not true. Last example. So maybe you've already told yourself, you know what, I'm not that talented at this. I'm not that good at this, right? And so you go for an opportunity, you get one rejection, and it confirms what you already feel about yourself. So you give up and don't try again, not realizing that rejection is just a part of the process. There are people who are crazy talented that get rejected all the time. But because you have this negative perception of yourself, you're looking for things to confirm how you already feel, even though it's not rooted in truth. And so this leads me to my second step in overcoming insecurity: reprogramming and training your mind to think from an optimistic perspective instead of a pessimistic perspective. So, for example, if a friend forgets to text you back, instead of going down this rabbit hole of, oh, maybe she just doesn't really like me like that, or, maybe she's not messing with me like that, maybe you switch the narrative in the story you're telling yourself and you say, you know what? She's probably just really busy. I know she had a lot going on. See how it changes? One of the symptoms of insecurity is that you begin to take everything personal, as an attack on you, as if this thing is happening because of something you did wrong, because they think something about you. When you really start to become more secure, you'll realize that it's really not about you. People have a life that doesn't involve anything having to do with you. It's not about you. So you learn to not to take stuff personal, and you start to realize that, you know what, maybe they were just really busy. And this even helps because even in a dating situation or scenario, maybe someone isn't interested, right? Maybe that is the case. You being able to separate that someone not responding to you and your worth as two separate things is so vital. It's so vital. And you recognizing that someone's actions have everything to do with them, especially if you know you didn't do anything wrong, right? Or if also it's just having security in the fact that if I did do something wrong, the people that have access to me in my life, they would be willing to communicate that. It's not your job to play detective to figure out someone's feelings. You want people in your life who have the maturity level to communicate their feelings. So even when it comes to security, if someone is pulling away or whatever the case may be, you're secure in the fact that, you know what, if they wanted to, they would have a conversation. Even if they wanted to have a conversation and they didn't, it is not your job to play detective to figure out someone's feelings. But having that optimistic perspective of, you know what, if they want to talk to me, they will. Or in the friendship example, it's just, you know what, they may be busy, because they probably are, because you are not the center of people's world. But when you are insecure or you have insecurity, you begin to believe people are doing things to hurt you. And it's not like you are consciously trying to make it seem that way, but it's just like, you know what, maybe they didn't respond because of this, maybe they didn't do this because of this, maybe they're late because they didn't really want to come, maybe, you start to think of all these negative things, and it's like, or maybe it just took them a long time to get ready, or maybe they're just not that good at texting, or maybe they're just really busy, right? Now, when it comes to the relationship example, you have a right, if this is a consistent pattern, to once again, as someone who is secure or who is working on security, to say, you know what, this isn't working for me, and remove yourself from the situation. But you don't need to be anxious about it. It doesn't mean that it takes anything away from you. And that is the mindset shift. It's from a negative perception of self to an optimistic perspective. Stop internalizing everything that people do. Everything is not about you. It's the harsh truth. Stop playing it small and step into the fullness of who God has called you to be. Join the Holy It Girl Society, a transformative mentorship program designed to help women like you navigate the challenging but beautiful process of building a relationship with God and stepping fully and boldly into purpose. If you struggle with consistency when it comes to hitting your goals, struggle with imposter syndrome, low self-esteem, you're tired of stagnancy in your life, you're struggling in your waiting season, whether it's for your husband, whether it's for a job opportunity, whether it's for financial freedom, whatever it is, this is the community for you. We are taking a holistic approach to your growth. We are going to be talking about things such as healing from past hurts, being a better steward of your finances, breaking free from self-limiting beliefs and mindsets that are keeping you stagnant, setting goals and how can you actually obtain those goals, understanding the season you're in and navigating that season successfully. We are going to talk about it all. Link is below if y'all want to learn more and join, but I'll let y'all get back to the video. See you later, queens. Bye. Now, step 3 in how to stop becoming insecure is to learn to seek the approval of God and not man. The problem with putting your values and self-worth in things of the world, such as your money, your wealth, your status, your clout, likes on social media, is that those things are outside of your control. They can be taken away at any moment, right? But God is everlasting. God is constant. He's the only thing that is 100% constant in our life. His expectations of us and the things that please him are inside of our control, as well as his love is unconditional, not based on anything that you do. But when it comes to just seeking the approval of God, it's about things like honesty, which you can control, being obedient to what he tells you to do, which you can control, abiding by his laws, which you can control. So when your confidence comes from pleasing God, you have full control of this confidence. It is an everlasting confidence that is rooted in him and that cannot be shaken or taken away. People are fickle. One minute they can like you, the next minute they won't. Like, look at Jesus. He had crowds following him, just ready to hear his word. And then next thing you know, they were ready to crucify him days later. If we rely on the approval of people as a measure of our worth, we will always be susceptible to being broken down by the hand of man. So you cannot tie your worth to their opinions. And this goes in multiple ways, whether it's in them giving you praise. Don't let the praise go to your head too much. Or whether they're trying to tear you down. Don't let it get to your head too much, right? Both ways. Because both can be dangerous. Because if you are seeking the validation and the praise from other people, those are the same people who have the power to tear you down. And this is in relationships too. We should be seeking approval from God and not making our relationships an idol, because that's what happens in narcissistic relationships, right? You have someone who they found someone with low self-esteem, someone who's dealt with insecurity, and so they built them up with their words, and you're eating it up to the point now you're relying on their validation for your confidence, which puts your confidence in a fragile state where it can be crushed by that person because they are the ones who built it up. So now if you put your confidence in the hands of God, someone who is trustworthy, someone who is loving and who loves you unconditionally and whose love is unshakable and cannot be taken away, now it cannot be broken. As you build a relationship with God, you actually will become more self-aware of who you are and become more aware of your shortcomings. And through him revealing your shortcomings, you will actually recognize that you do have things to work on, but you will be able to become comfortable in the fact that, you know what, I do have stuff to work on. I do have these things I need to work on, but God makes up for those. God makes up for where I lack. His power and his grace is sufficient to cover those areas where I'm not adequate. Yeah, you may not have all the qualifications for the job opportunity, but you know what? I know a God where he can take the little bit that I have, the little bit loaves of bread that I have, and feed the 5,000. He can take the little bit of skill that I have and use it and make it more than enough, right? So when you have a relationship with God, you realize that you don't have to have it all together in your own strength. It is through his strength that he can take the little bit that you have and make it more than enough. So now there's no need to feel insecurity about your shortcomings, because your confidence doesn't come in knowing how great you are. Your confidence comes from knowing how great he is. I don't have faith that I'm able to do it all by myself and I have it all together, because I know that's not true, which also Saul knew that wasn't true. He knew he had shortcomings. The problem with Saul was that he didn't have a true relationship with God. He wasn't truly devoted to God. So when he's looking at life, he's only looking at it from the perspective of what he is capable of doing and not through the perspective of what God is capable of doing, which is why his insecurity would grow. One of the things about God is he reveals truth. And there's this level of self-awareness that you develop through coming into a relationship with him. But it's not in a way where he causes you to have shame for your shortcomings. You learn to actually love the ugly parts of yourself and give it to God so he can transform them. And we see this with the Samaritan woman at the well. When it came to the Samaritan woman at the well, God didn't condemn her for her past with multiple men. He just simply revealed that she had a past with multiple men. Because what Jesus does is he reveals truth so that transformation can occur. It's not about shame and guilt. There's no need to feel shame about things maybe you've done in your past or times you failed in the past, because a lot also comes with insecurity is maybe there were things in the past where you did mess up, where you did fail. But all that doesn't matter once you give it to God, because his mercy and his grace starts every day. Once again, if you learn to value the opinion of God over man, no matter what other people have to say about you, if God says I'm straight, then I'm straight. If God says that I'm going to be prosperous, then that's going to happen. It doesn't matter what they have to say about me. It doesn't matter if they reject me, because if God says that he's going to open a door, their rejection is just getting me closer to my next yes. It doesn't matter who thinks I'm beautiful and who doesn't, because God says I was made in his image and I was made wonderfully and beautifully, and I am perfect in his eyes. He will send the right one for me who sees the beauty within me. It doesn't matter what they have to say about it, right? And so when we learn to seek the approval of God rather than man, it allows us to have that sense of security that you are trying to accomplish. Also, just recognizing that people are fickle and there are endless opinions. Even when Saul became king, there were people that loved the idea of him being king and there were people that hated it. We can't get too focused on the opinions of others, because there's always going to be mixed opinions. And you really leave yourself vulnerable when you do that. Within God is where true confidence is built, because it's no longer about, I got this and I'm big stuff and, that false sense of confidence, because that's what it is. Now your confidence is rooted in the fact that, I got some shortcomings. Sometimes I struggle with procrastination. I have some things I need to work on. But God is going to help me become a better version of myself. I'm working to become better every day. Yeah, I may have failed, but God's grace is sufficient. Yeah, I may have failed yesterday, but God's grace is sufficient. And today is a new day for me to do something new. I know that as long as I am rooted in God, he will not allow anything to destroy me. So I don't need to put too much weight on what people are saying, or have this fear and anxiety that everything is going to fall apart because of something I said, something I did. As well as I also just trust God in the sense that he will send people in my life that are grace for me, that are grace for my shortcomings. I don't need to be perfect. And I think that's also where anxiety will come in, and is you're worried about, what do they think about me? Are they going to think this? Or they probably think this about me? But it's kind of like, you know what, God, I'm a work in progress. And the people that are meant to be in my life will be grace for my shortcomings. I'm working towards being better every day. I am not perfect. But what I truly have found, when God sends those true friendships, like my sister in Christ, Andrea, we can talk about that. We can have the hard conversations and move on. And we can reveal simple truths of things we want to be worked on and move on. Those are the type of friendships you want in your life anyway, not ones that make you insecure or make you feel like, oh, are they going to talk about me when I get up from the table? If that's the problem that you're feeling, or you're feeling like they're doing that, are those really your friends anyway? And are those people you want to be in your life? So we have to start questioning our anxiety, and we have to start making God the center and looking and seeking about, what does God say about me? Not what the enemy is trying to get me to believe, but what does he say? If anything, your shortcomings should just increase your reverence for God and make you realize, you know what? I really need God. If anything, that is the only thing they should be doing. Is like, I really need God, because without him, I have these shortcomings. The fourth step in helping you overcome insecurity is recognizing that nothing outside of yourself is going to fulfill you and make you secure. It will never be enough. Saul had the kingdom. Saul led the people of Israel into military victories, but it wasn't enough. And it wasn't ever going to be enough. No matter how much God gave him, it wasn't going to be enough, because on the inside, he still had a void that needed to be filled with God. And he had insecurity that he hadn't brought to God yet. And that's the problem, is a lot of us think that, God, if you just bless me with the financial stability, if you just bless me with the wealth, if you just bless me with the job opportunity, if you just bless me with the husband, that is going to solve your problems. And it's not, because your problem is a heart problem. Your problem is a perspective problem. Honestly, Saul's reign is just an example of what it looks like to be put in position without God doing the spiritual work on you first. That's all it is. Saul's reign is just an example of what it looks like for God to put you in position without doing the spiritual work on you first. He had the throne. He was sitting at the table. Samuel had honored him as a guest, but he didn't feel adequate in that position. So he actually self-sabotaged it because his insecurity led to pride, and it led to a revengeful spirit and him trying to kill David, which in the end led to his destruction. God anointed Saul. Only reason David had to be anointed as the new king and risen up as the new king was due to Saul's heart posture and the lack of him being rooted in God, and for his evilness. And his evilness was all due to his insecurity. His evilness was all due to his pride. But if he would have focused on God and healing internally, rather than being so focused on acquiring externally, he could have maintained his position. When we talk about the woman at the well, we see that Jesus referred to himself as living water, because he is the only way for us to truly receive the spiritual nourishment, for our souls to receive that spiritual nourishment that it needs to have that inner peace. And so when a lot of us are trying to go to things outside of him to gain that peace, you have to get to the point where you recognize that, baby, that's not possible. Nothing is going to give you peace that surpasses all understanding, because that void that you're trying to fill, that, oh, I just need that and then I'll be happy, is really Jesus. Because once you acquire that thing, there will always be someone else who has more, and you will want that. There will always be more that you want, because the issue is not about whether you have something or not. The issue is about your perception of yourself. So we have to heal the perception of yourself, not acquire more things to try to impress people. And it's just crazy because Saul was in position. There were people that would have killed to be in Saul's position. But his perception of himself led to him creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You felt like you were not good enough, even though God put you in a position because you were good enough. And so all your actions created an outcome that caused you to be kicked out of your throne. Are you creating a self-fulfilling prophecy in your life right now? This can look like the relationship. You get the relationship, and because your self-concept, the way that you see yourself, is negative, you are now self-sabotaging the relationship, a good relationship that God may have brought into your life, because you don't believe you're truly deserving of it. So now your trust issues get in the way, your insecurity gets in the way, you start accusing, you start tearing that person down to the point where they cannot deal with it anymore, because they're just like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. And now your insecurity, because you don't truly feel like you're worthy of this man, is actually causing you to destroy the very thing that you want but don't believe that you deserve. And for those that are single right now, or for those that are still waiting for something from God right now, this is why God cannot put you in position. Because the version of you right now would self-sabotage if he gave it to you, because you think the answered prayer is going to fix everything. But really, you taking this moment where you are right now to heal internally, to change the way that you view yourself, to rewire the way that you think about yourself, is actually necessary for you to maintain that next level. Be thankful for the wait, because it's honestly God's grace. I know you look at it as a punishment, but trust me, what will be more of a punishment is to be like Saul and actually sit on the throne, to get in position and to lose it all. Allow God to mold you internally. And we see this to be true in the Bible, because David wasn't one of the best kings because he was perfect. David had insecurities. David went through trials. We see that when we read Psalms, all the tears he shed and the nights and, enemies trying to attack him. Like, he went through a lot. But what made David such a mighty king was that he always seeked the will of God. And then even when he made a mistake, he turned back to God. When he felt like he was weary in his faith, he talked to God about it. He found confidence in God when he went to go fight Goliath. Everyone else was fearful, like, oh my gosh, he's so big, he's such a giant, how could we ever do it? But David's like, do you know I got God on my back? He didn't care about what it looked like, because he knew who was standing behind him. His confidence, his strength was not based on who he was, and everything was based on who God was, and that is what made him such an amazing king. We have to change the mindset that things will change or you will feel different when you acquire something outside of yourself. We have to start working on changing how we feel now. And I highly recommend therapy. Big advocate for it. Step 5 in how to heal your insecurity is gratitude. The problem with insecurity is that it leads you to become blind to all that you have. You start to see every time someone gets something as if they have more than you. And you start to look at everyone else's plate and discount your own. Taking moments in the morning and at the end of the day to find 5 to 10 things you're grateful for. Maybe in the morning, you're talking about 5 to 10 things you're grateful for just in general. At night, 5 to 10 things you're grateful for that took place that day. And it can be the smallest things. But learning to actually take a second to look at your own plate like, you know what? I have accomplished this, and this. God has helped me overcome this, and this. You'll start to realize, you know what? I have a lot to be blessed about. And I've done it too. I can be someone who I'm so focused on getting to the next thing and accomplishing things and I can start looking at my life like nothing is happening. But then when I go back and I start to look at everything that happened month after month, I'm like, you know what? We kind of ate that, Jesus. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been this type of person because I'm always trying to get to the next thing. I'm always wanting my life to be on go. And sometimes God has to slow me down and take moments where it's just like, you know what? I'm grateful. Like, I have a lot to be grateful for. The crazy thing is, there is someone who would kill to be in your position right now. And you're too busy looking at someone else's plate and then looking at yours and seeing what you lack, not realizing that you actually have so much. And there is someone who would kill to be in your position. There's someone that if they had your position, they would dominate it. They will go full force. But because of your perspective, you don't even see how much you have. So you're actually letting seeds just sit there that you could be planting into the ground because you're spending time complaining instead of planting because of your insecurity. Yeah, they may have a lot going on, but you and them are on 2 different paths. You and them are meant to have 2 different stories. You aren't going to have all the resources they have, and they're not going to have all the resources you have. You need to be grateful for the hand that you were dealt and play it. Play the hand that you were dealt. Complaining is not going to change it. Looking at their plate is not going to change it. Play the hand that you were dealt. Because trust and believe, if you don't, God will send someone else to fulfill it. Cough, cough. Saul, then David. Once again, this is how we self-sabotage. Because trust and believe, when David got in position as king, he did what needed to be done. Every single day, I want you to write 5 to 10 things you are grateful for and begin to romanticize your life. Learn to see the beauty in even the little things. Just learn to look at your life like, you know what? I have so much to be grateful for. And God will give you more. Why would he want to keep blessing you with more when you're not even grateful for what you have? And I know it's so cliche, but once you start to actually take note and count the blessings, you'll realize, you know what? God really be doing his big one. God is not against you. Stop painting that narrative in your head as if God is trying to withhold something good from you. If God is not giving you something yet, it's for a reason, and go talk to him about the reason. Because there's probably something within you that needs to shift. And he's like, if I put you in position, you're just going to be like Saul. If I put you in that leadership position, your insecurity is going to cause you to look down on others. If I put you in that leadership position, your insecurity is going to cause you to try to tear down people you see as a threat instead of collaborating and loving on them. I want you to pray and ask God to help you see yourself the way that he sees you and to reveal the gifts that he placed on the inside of you because you are worth so much. Lastly, when it comes to how to overcome insecurity is repentance, accountability, and vulnerability with God. A lot of us, after we fail, or if there's something that happened that causes us to feel like we're not good enough, whether it's a past failure, whether it was something someone said to you, whether it was times you let other people down, or maybe you're hard on yourself because you're like, dang, I really have a character flaw. Like, I really have a problem with how I speak to people. I'm such a horrible person. Whatever you're saying about yourself, you are keeping yourself imprisoned by not bringing it to God. Because we hide from the world, we think we can do the same thing with God, but let me tell you something. He already knows. He already knows you have this insecurity. I know you're trying to hide it from everyone else, and that's fine. You can do that. But can you trust God enough to bring it to Him? Can you trust God enough to bring it to Him that, dang, I messed up. I haven't been doing what I need to be doing. How do we fix this? Because you cannot heal something that you are denying or that you are not admitting. And you don't have to put a billboard sign to everyone, but can you at least admit it to God and then have a repentant heart? Because you are keeping yourself in prison by not just talking to Him about it. He already knows. He wants to help you. He already knows it's a problem. You're not hiding anything. You can't hide things from God like you do from the world. And when we talk about repentance, repentance isn't just about, oh, I'm sorry, God. It's about a change in heart posture. It's about a change in direction. How do I move forward from here? What is the change that needs to happen? How do I heal from this, God? I'm struggling with this. I'm comparing myself, Lord. Lord, I don't feel adequate for this position. I feel like everyone else is more qualified than me. Why should I even go for it? Go talk to God about it. Because trust and believe He'll have an answer, and He'll have a change in heart posture to give you. He can change your heart. He can change the way that you view the situation. Bring the ugly truth to the light. And as we know, God is light. So when we bring the ugly truth to God, transformation can occur. It also means accountability. You being able to be like, you know what? I do have this shortcoming. Not trying to act like it's not there. God is not going to shame you like people would. If He's bringing something to your attention, is because He wants to help you fix it. Because that's who He is. He's our Father. No need to have shame. This wraps up the episode of How to Stop Being Insecure. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you a lot of nuggets to take away and a lot of things to reflect on, think on, add to your journals. If you are wanting to focus on your healing journey, growing in your relationship with God, actually accomplishing your goals this year, fighting imposter syndrome, fighting insecurity, then register for the Holy It Girl Society, a mentorship community designed to help you reach your full potential and walk boldly in the purpose that God has for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Bye.